Hello, hello. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. You know what? I realized that I got going here with my smaller microphone. Look at that. So I'm going to do a live on-air mic change. See if I can not break the system here. And I realize we're starting to get some people signed in. Thank you all for tuning in here for show 243. And I'm going to change mics real quick. So let's give this a shot. See how quick and smooth I can do it. Cameron, you're down there on my screen. You can hear me okay? I hear a thumbs up. That's good. That's a good sign. Hopefully I sound a little better now. Maybe a richer, deeper voice. Good microphone will do that on occasion. I know I'm not giving it much to work with here, but it's doing the best it can. So it's May 17th. It is Wednesday. It's a little bit after 12:30. What's going on in my life personally? I just went to my son's awards banquet or award ceremony last night at his school. And I'm gonna parent brag here. He came home with some hardware, and he came home with what's called the Patriot Award, which was the pinnacle award for the 8th grade for academic excellence. And so my wife and I were very proud parents, and appreciate that, Eddie. Thanks for tuning in. And so that was pretty cool. And then what else happened? If you follow me on Instagram, you would know, because I always post about on my Ron Callis Instagram. I post personal stuff, family stuff, and my son just a week or two ago actually got second place in the state history competition, and he's going to be headed to nationals here in a few weeks. So so that's happening. So I'll be headed to DC first or second week there of June, and we'll be rooting him on. And in Firefly land, show season is over-ish, although we do have Infocom, and I know that's a big show, but we have Infocom happening here in June, and One Firefly will be there. But a lot of the activities of the fall, or not the fall, but the spring season are now behind us. And it was awesome. It was awesome to see all of our clients and our friends, and we got to speak. I personally was able to speak on a number of occasions at different events, and it was a lot of fun. And of course, the elephant in the room for everyone in society, unless you've been living under a rock, is and I see Eddie's comment here. Max is the man. Eddie, I will. I'm coming to DC. I want to say June 7th, but I'll get you some dates. But what was I going to say? The elephant in the room, unless you've been living under a rock, is artificial intelligence. Oh my gosh, is there so much amazing stuff happening out there? So, you can expect to hear more from One Firefly. We're actually going to help lead the charge, and we are researching daily all the different AI tools. There's literally hundreds of tools coming out weekly right now. It's like a exponential growth curve. It's a parabolic curve, and it's just amazing and terrifying, and riddled with anxiety and fear and opportunity and excitement with all of these software changes that are happening. And I mean, before you know it, all your Microsoft apps are going to have their AI embedded. I guess that would be ChatGPT or derivative thereof from OpenAI. And you have Google and all of their search is going to be updated. I heard they're even beta testing search updates with Bard, and all of the Google apps are going to have, a variation of the Google AI embedded on top of the, at this point, thousands of different pieces of software that you can plug into your Chrome or that you can use as standalone. and it's really going to run the gamut of A to Z of our lives. Right. So I listen to a lot of content. For those that know me, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I try to read as diligently as I can. I watch YouTube videos, and the comparison is that AI is the biggest invention since fire. That's a very bold statement, by the way, but maybe the biggest invention since the wheel, maybe the biggest invention since the internet. But it's a big deal, and it's changing everything. In some cases for the better, in some cases for the worse. But regardless, it's like gravity. You can't fight it. Gravity wins. So it's a matter of what do you do with it. And I can tell you here at One Firefly, we are 10 toes down, figuring out not only what are we doing with it in our products and processes. I'll be chatting with our guest here a little bit about this. But we're also positioning ourselves to help all of you in our industry understand what's out there and what might be valuable or helpful to your business. And so you can expect more from us here very soon. And we're going to try to keep a regular cadence of this thought leadership, educational content, and really help you curate from marketing to sales to project management to all aspects of your business, really up and down the chain, from service to programming to accounting to finance to planning to events. There's applications for AI everywhere. So you can't hide from it. We're not going to hide from it. We're embracing it. We're running towards it. And you can expect more from us soon. And if you just want to chat and nerd out on all things AI, for those of you that know me, one of my favorite hobbies is blockchain. And AI is now quickly becoming my second favorite hobby. And hell, might even overtake my first hobby with the amount of content that I'm out there consuming about it. And in fact, I've just learned this week, I've been invited to participate in a panel discussion on AI at CEDIA. So in September, I'll be on a panel. I'll be on the stage talking to you. And I promise you all that I'm taking that opportunity seriously. And I'm going to share and give anything and everything that I've learned with all of you. We'll be doing that ongoing here starting this summer. And we'll certainly do that live in person at CEDIA. And I have a feeling at various industry events where you see me, I'll likely be talking about AI because everything's different now, and it's exciting, and it does make us better when you use it the right ways. And so we'll be talking about some of those right ways. Let's bring it to the guest today. So today is show 243, and my guest is one of our very own here at One Firefly. This is Cameron Howitt. He's manager of project management and IT at One Firefly. And so let me go ahead and bring Cameron in, and we'll have a fun conversation. Cameron, how are you?
Hey, Ron, doing great. Thanks for having me. And
are you a long-time listener, first-time caller?
Yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller. Exactly.
Awesome. So Cameron, tell our audience, where are you coming to us from?
Yeah, I'm coming to you from my home office here in Austin, Texas, where
Awesome.
I've been based for about 12 years now.
How do you like living in Austin?
I love it. It's got the things I like about Texas and less of the things I don't like about Texas.
That's awesome. Yeah. What's that big I've never been to this thing, but what's that big technology conference that always happens in Austin? South by Southwest?
Yep.
Have you ever been to that?
I've been to the music component. I've never been to what they call the interactive component, where they bring out all the new hot spicy tech.
Yeah, we'll have to make a point to go to that at some time.
That. Yeah,
sooner than cool. Later.
Yeah.
So Cameron, we got lots of fun things that we're going to talk about. Some of them are going to relate to the experience and the things that you're noodling and working on here at One Firefly. And some of them outside of those bounds. But take us back in time. Help us understand your background. You joined us, by the way. How long? What year?
I joined in December of 2016. So
Woohoo!
we're on year 7 now with One Firefly.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. That's you've been with us through really that hockey stick growth.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I was number 15 when I joined, and now we're over 80 people. So it's been pretty substantial growth in those.
And it's always been easy and smooth sailing, right?
Every day. Every day is better than the last. And, the seas are calm.
Always calm.
There is no stress, no strain that we face as a business.
No, the comedy there, anyone tuned in knows growing a business is hard.
Yeah.
And there's trials and tribulations, and it takes tremendous amount of grit and perseverance and hard work and focus and patience. And Cameron regularly practices all of those. So that's one of many reasons I was happy to have you on the show, and I want to share some of that experience with our audience. But take us back in time, as far as you want to take us, and tell us what your background looks like.
Sure. Yeah. So I went to college just down the road from Austin in San Marcos, Texas, at Texas State University, and I studied very marketing specific topics like geographic information systems and anthropology and environmental studies.
What's a natural fit right there?
Yeah, directly applicable to what I do here with One Firefly on a daily basis. So I was there from about 2005 to 2009. And when I was there, I met a very lovely woman named Emma, who has now become my wife. But shortly after graduating, she was in grad school at New York City. So I moved there for about a year and a half and put my collegiate education to work, working for the US Census Bureau. This was back in 2010, so the decennial census at that time. I worked at the regional field office in Midtown Manhattan in the 13th floor of an office building. It was very not great, very long commute for me, but I really enjoyed the work, and it was cool to be a part of that project. And so I was doing data quality assurance, creating maps for the federal government, for the state government, and reports and stuff like that.
Like, what do you mean making maps? Like literally, like you're in Adobe Illustrator drawing lines?
No. So not Illustrator, but like GIS programs like ArcGIS from Esri, or I can't remember some of the other ones now, but that was the big one at the time. So my job at that time was to take little dots on the map that sat right on the border of census blocks and determine, is this household in this block or in this block? And I would use, publicly available street view information, really any data that we could get our hands on to determine where should these people be attributed. Because then, as you know, that information feeds up to the census tract and then the region, and all of those numbers have an effect on how people are represented in their state and federal government. So it is important. And in New York City and in that region in particular, you start to deal with the urban canyon effect. So that's an issue that affects GPS, at least it did 13 years ago, where when you're in the middle of a city, sometimes the satellites have trouble pinpointing your exact location. So when these locations were surveyed, they're kind of in this gray area. So my role was to take a look at those gray area data points and make the determination, is it block A or block B? And then all the data that was captured through the census would be going to the correct census block.
Sounds very meticulous.
Yeah, it's kind of boring.
I wasn't going to go there. I was just saying meticulous.
Yeah, it was meticulous. It was fun. It's like being an investigator a little bit. So really, really enjoyed that work, but the census happens once every 10 years, and that work came to an end. So from there,
by the way, Kim, we had a number of comments here, but I was put on the screen. Our very own CFO, Mr. T, also known as Taylor Whipple, says, "Welcome, Cameron." So,
hey, Taylor.
Well, keep going.
Yeah. So when the census in 2010 ended, I was looking for my next big break, and I got it by going to the lovely town of Red Bank, New Jersey, which was about an hour away from New York City. And I went to work at Fort Monmouth. And at that time, they were shutting down that Army base. So it was a big project to move all of the people from that base that were remaining active duty to another base. And then also like sunsetting the location and preparing it for sale. So I worked in the environmental division, and I was doing surveying of underground heating oil storage tanks, where they're located, taking soil samples, and then again producing maps and reporting for local, state, and federal government. And that facility has now been sold, I understand. There's a very large building there that I recently looked, and it's populated by a financial tech firm, I believe, and they've put like a curly slide from the top to the bottom, and it's a very different place now. But I was there for about a year and a half, and we completed the project. Fun fact about Fort Monmouth: it's where carrier pigeons were trained. So my office that I had was maybe like 300 meters or 300 yards from the chicken coop, or the bird.
The pigeon coop.
Yeah, the aviary where those carrier pigeons from back in World War II were trained before they were sent across the pond and put to use as messengers in the war.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm not even sure. In fact, I'm pretty sure I didn't even remember they used carrier pigeons in war.
Yeah.
But would that have been in replace of Morse code or radio communication?
I guess so. Yeah.
I need you to know more about these pigeons, Cameron.
I'm gonna read the wiki after this podcast, Ron, and I'll report back in our next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we shut down the base. That was another successful project, and at that time, we decided that Texas was home and where we wanted to lay down roots. So this was in the end of 2011. I moved back here to Austin, Texas, and got married. And my next job from that was working at a company called Zebra Imaging, which was a 3D holographic imaging studio that was primarily supporting the Department of Defense in operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. So I was hired to, again, produce mapping products for the warfighter in the field. So it was a pretty neat job, dealing with a very different customer base. I would get emails from people in the field with a set of coordinates and a date when they needed a hologram shipped across the world to them. And I would pull satellite imagery and elevation data that was available to us and overlay the two and make some recommendations on how we could produce the product. And then we had these imagers, is what we called them, that produced a holographic image. So when you used a single point source illumination on the map itself, it would create a light field that was full parallax, and you could walk around that.
I thought that was in the movies only.
No, this is very real. Very real.
All right, so let me see this. So
yeah,
this battle, the soldier, like I'm trying to think of, like, I saw this in Avatar, like where they light this up and they see the topology and they see the living tree and they see. So you're saying that's real?
It's adjacent to what you saw in Avatar, I would say. If you were
maybe a little more 3D rendering.
Yeah, like if you paired what you saw in Avatar with a topographic map, it's kind of like that. Yeah, it was really cool. It was we used green light, so the soldiers always used we called it a monochromatic hologram, and
it would pop up in 3 dimensions in front of them.
Yeah, to your eyes, it looked like it was in 3D. If you were off to the side, out of the viewing cone, is what we called it. If you're outside the viewing cone, you wouldn't see anything. But if you're inside that viewing cone, you would see all the terrain, the buildings, the urban atmosphere, the urban environment, everything. So it was used for like determining helicopter landing zones, ingress and egress routes, situational awareness before going into dangerous environments.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I do remember talking to you about that back when we interviewed you 7 years ago, and I probably asked you even more questions then. Just tell me more about this tech. That sounds so
Yeah.
cool.
I wish I had held on to one so that I could show you guys like at our team events or something, but it's the tech is long gone. Actually, the company shut down as Zebra Imaging. There's now like an offshoot that's doing research, some really amazing research into the future of holography and how it can be used. But the print side of that business is no more. So, and that was I lost that job probably 4 months before my daughter was born. So I was a little nervous, rightfully, about welcoming a child into the world and having a mortgage to pay for, and luckily came across the role here at One Firefly, and that's when I joined in 2016 as traffic manager.
That's interesting. I decided, you talk about not having a job or losing a job right as a little one's on the way. I one-upped that, and I said, let me start this business and let me do it right at the middle of the Great Recession. So let me just really time it so it's miserably difficult. And then my wife and I was like, you know what? Let's have a baby.
Yeah, good timing,
Let's
right?
do that. I was like, I need a little more stress and anxiety in my life. And fortunately, it's all worked out quite well. But yeah,
Sometimes you just got to take the leap, right?
you just gotta, I say, jump off the cliff, and have the parachute in your hand and throw the chute and hope it opens before you hit the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But sounds like for you it did, because you joined us. And you joined us originally, Cameron, as a traffic manager.
Yeah.
What was your journey like over that time, from traffic manager to your current role? And what does your current role entail here at One Firefly?
Sure. Yeah. So as traffic manager, my primary focus was monitoring the sales traffic. So the deals at that time, I think I can safely say it was just you, Ron.
In sales?
So yeah.
Maybe me, or maybe we had just brought Josh on. Maybe it was just before we brought Josh on.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was just you at that time. But, keeping an eye on the deals that you were working, those that were closing, and making sure that we had the appropriate resources, content writers, web designers, properly mobilized to support that client and get those projects through to completion. So that's really the role of the traffic manager, is looking at all the demands, comparing it to the supply, and identifying risks as it relates to your ability to meet the requirements of what you've sold to a customer. So I did that for a few years, actually. And, in that project management tool was kind of new to the organization. So took over the administration of that. It was Workfront at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And really started, thinking about the way we planned our work, the way we scheduled work, and just tried to provide a bit more visibility and clarity to the organization on the work that we're doing for our customers. So we started developing out new project templates for how we deploy digital marketing campaigns, websites. When we have clients doing multiple services, how do we plan that work so that it's all happening at the right cadence for that customer? And in doing that, just kind of started putting my finger into different applications that the team was using. So, bringing Slack into the organization for better communication. At the time, I think we were using Skype. Upgrading,
feels like the dark ages when you mentioned that, our Skypes texting each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We upgraded Basecamp. So like the role that I have now is the manager of project management and IT. And in the intermediate time, I was the internal product manager. So there was a period there where another individual had come in to run project management for the organization. And a little bit over a year ago, or maybe a little bit less than a year ago, they stepped away from the company, and I was asked to come back to this part of the business and run the team. And we've since really built out the team with a lot of great people. So now we have project coordinators who are kind of like the traffic manager, but more in the project itself and monitoring what's going on, deploying those projects for new sales. We do have traffic managers that are keeping an eye on the resources in various parts of the organization, like our content team and our web team and graphics, and making sure that, we're properly staffed to support the demand, not overstaffed and not understaffed at any time. We have our administrative support team that's working with our production staff for deploying the content that we create for our customers.
Cam, I have to put this on the screen because you just referenced this gentleman. And there he is.
Hey, Reynaldo. Good to hear from you, Ray.
That's awesome. Ray was with us. Great guy, great, passionate member of our team. And Cameron was just talking about him. That's the universe at work right there.
That's right. Yeah. So he was a great part of the team, and wish him all the best. Absolutely. So in addition to that, I also am working still in the IT side. So that's kind of that internal product manager role that I held on to. And, what we're doing there is integrating applications, trying to, again, just make work easy for our team and help them be successful in the job that we're asking them to do.
So at a high level, there's this idea, and I'll speak meta here for a moment. Sales, we now have a nice sales team.
Mm-hmm.
Kendall from our team, she's been with us 9 years, as you know, and she's just now moved over from digital media, and she's now running our sales organization, with Taylor and my support. And when we interact with clients, we do a lot of teaching and a lot of educating, just about marketing and about business. Sometimes we act as emotional support for our clients if they need it. I say that comically, gosh, I forgot the word I was trying to say, facetiously or not. But the reality is a client commits to us and we commit to them. And there's, call it a peak level of happiness there. Like they're excited about the future and we are excited to work with them. And fortunately or unfortunately, but it's just the objective truth that there's now work that has to happen before we can actually do the actual work, right? We have to get their website logins, or we have to get their Google Analytics access, or we have to get any number of onboarding activities that have to happen in order for us to provide the service that they've engaged us for. And in many businesses, and I think honestly speaking, you could say maybe in our past at One Firefly the same, like moving from that peak level of happiness into that hard work can be hard. And the handoffs or the baton from sales to onboarding and from onboarding into production, those handoffs, if treated well and managed well and designed strategically and handled with care, can engage and keep our clients happy and satisfied through that process. And we can keep the momentum. But to do that, it takes work. And I know you had recently, in fact, I grabbed a piece of artwork here. So I'll put it on the screen for my people that are watching live. You'll see this picture. For those that are listening, I'll tell you what it is. But I've got the artwork for a book called Onboarding Matters: How Successful Companies Transform New Companies into Loyal Champions by Donna Weber. You and your team have actually read this book, and you've gotten some nuggets out of this that you're mobilizing here. Do you want to kind of maybe describe how did you come about deciding to even read a book? What did you observe was the current state, and then where are you at on that journey to try to further implement change or improvements?
Yeah, so this book was actually brought to my attention by a member of our team, Justin, who's an onboarding specialist with us. And the reason that we're reading this book and the reason we're using it to kind of spark some conversation is that it's just what you said. We enter a partnership with our clients when they become One Firefly customers. And they're transitioning, many of them for the first time, making an investment in marketing when they join as a client of One Firefly. And they're putting a lot of trust in us to deliver success for them. But we also need to do a better job. And I think any company under the sun could say this, that there's always room to improve that handoff from the buyer journey to the customer journey. And, as a salesperson and as our sales team, they work really hard on building trust with that client. And the reason that we're able to have clients at all is because they're successful at building that trust. So part of this book is about discussing how can you transfer that trust from the buyer journey to the customer journey to keep that peak level of happiness going, and to help your customers not go down the path of buyer's remorse and finding reasons to believe that they made a mistake in engaging you as a service provider. Mm-hmm. So we're learning a lot by reading it. The book is primarily written through the lens of deploying software as a service and how you onboard customers into a custom software solution. But there's a lot to be gleaned from that. It's not, organizations and industries don't exist in a vacuum. People are people, customers are customers. They have to make the same kind of decisions and investments in their business to be successful. So yeah, the book is really about the different phases of onboarding a client. So, embarking on onboarding, that happens even before you close the deal. So that includes setting expectations with your customer about what's going to happen next. Then you have the handoff. So that's where that transfer of trust needs to happen between sales and whoever takes the baton. And then there's many other phases. Then it actually goes a bit further than what we classify as onboarding right now. So I would even venture to say that what we're classifying as onboarding is really just pre-production. And that onboarding is what's happening until your clients are feeling value from the service that you're providing. So these are areas that we're looking at as a department. How can we better track? Like, how can we get better at setting the expectation for our customer and really leaning on the fact that this is a partnership and making sure that they know what's expected of them so that we can be successful on their behalf? How can we do a better job of handing off from the buyer journey to the customer journey? How can we do a better job of documenting those expectations and what makes that client unique and what challenges are we looking to solve for them, so that everyone who works on that project at various stages knows what success looks like for that client. And then lastly, how can we identify that moment of first value for each of the services that we're offering to our customers? And only then, once we've identified that they are experiencing a value, then we consider that client out of onboarding. So we're very early in the stages of it, but it's a real reshaping of the way we viewed that first engagement with our customers that we've historically called onboarding.
How did you, I'm going to get a bit tactical here, just with actually the fact that there's a book and the book has good ideas. Mm-hmm. How did you bring this book to your team? Did you read this book and you took all the cliff notes and you brought that to your team? Did you have your whole team read the book? How did you go about actually getting everyone kind of on the same singing off the same sheet of music?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, it was actually a member of my team that brought it to my attention. And I like to read when I have a topic that really jives with something I'm interested in, and taking over this team in this part of the company that I wasn't historically deeply involved in. I really wanted a resource to show the best way to manage this part of the organization. So I read it in a weekend and was very excited because I saw a lot of One Firefly in the book, both good and bad, right? Like we're doing a lot of what's in that book, and we're doing some of that well, and we're doing some of it not so well. So once I read it, I encouraged the other members of our onboarding team to read through it. And over the last few weeks, we've been talking about various parts just in sequence. We talked about part 1, which kind of sets the stage of what onboarding is, and up until really just like the intro. And then part 2 is where you go into the 7 phases of onboarding. So I think we're on phase 3 now in our book club. And we'll continue to meet every other week and talk about what we see in One Firefly that's going well, what we see in One Firefly where we can improve. We'll come up with our ideas, but then in addition to that, I want to start having targeted discussions with other parts of the organization that are a part of this process, right? Historically, like I said, we've looked at onboarding as this very
siloed.
Yeah, it's very siloed, very succinct period of time where we're gathering assets, credentials, and information from our client. But I think as an organization, it's time that we expand the lens of what that means to onboard a client and what is an onboarded client versus one that isn't onboarded, so that we can make sure that we are achieving the success that they came to One Firefly for. So I want to start having some really targeted discussions with our sales team, our account management team, with the people in my part of the organization, and really anyone in the company that wants to be a part of that. I want them to be a part of that discussion. You know, I can pretend to have the answers, but I don't walk in their shoes every day. I'm not on the client calls every day. I'm not the one who has to get the customer to say, yeah, here's my credit card and this solution sounds great. So there's a lot that I don't know, and I'm very well aware of that. And I look forward to having those talks with our team and just kind of fine tuning as we learn from that and come up with a set of solutions that we think will just make us a better company. You know, there's no secret that we're under economic uncertainty right now. Every business is facing that. Yeah. And a huge part of being a successful business is retaining your customers. So going out and acquiring new clients all the time is expensive, and it doesn't lead to success for your business. And this is an area that at One Firefly, we want to do better. We want to serve our client better from the beginning so that they become a champion for us and couldn't see their marketing going to anywhere else.
No, I agree. We talk about internally, and we'll do it here on the show, you know, this idea that there's a current state, which is what we do today, and there's a future state, and that future state is maybe the version of the company, the version of your department, the version of a process that is more idealized. It's the aspirational goal for the company. And so one of the ways we get to that aspirational future state is we continually focus on improvement. It's the idea that every single day, in every single department, in every single person, we can get incrementally better. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering if you could translate that to your management style or how you're operating in the company, Cameron, this idea of constant improvement, incremental improvement. In other words, if we're climbing up 1,000 stairs, the first step doesn't have to be to stair 50. The first step can be to stair 1.
Yeah.
And that's okay, as long as we're making, sometimes it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but then you keep marching forward. So just what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I mean, I fully believe in continuous improvement. It's something that I try to embody in my personal life as well as here at work. You know, in my role and in the roles of the people on my team, we're often faced with problems and challenges. And I choose to see those as opportunity rather than, you know, a setback. Like, it is a setback, but when we're approached with challenges, it's an opportunity for us to determine what went wrong here and how can we make sure it doesn't happen again in the future. So that's the lens that I try to approach every time we have an issue, every time we have a concern from a client, or, you know, maybe we don't do our best at deploying a product or a service. Of course, like, there's you know, we're disappointed, right, that we didn't fully hit the mark there. We can choose to be disappointed this time and not change, and then be disappointed again in the future, and then again in the future. Or we can see that as the spotlight on an area where we can stand to improve. And it doesn't mean reshaping every process every time. It means defining little incremental improvements, a lot of time through, automation, right? Human error is a big part of where things can go wrong. People make mistakes. It's totally natural. And I wouldn't ever hold anyone, personally responsible for that. I make mistakes all the time. So if there's opportunities for us to automate different steps in our process to make sure that information is being properly tracked and transferred from during these handoffs, these are areas where I want to have an impact to help us improve. And I want the people on my team and the people that I work with to think about it in the same way.
We had a viewer on LinkedIn, and they just posted, I don't get to see their name. So for my team, if you know who this is on LinkedIn, drop their name in a message to me. But it says LinkedIn user, and they say 1% better every day. I tell you what, you do 1% better every day and you keep doing that. You look back a year, you've made monumental leaps in improvement in the company. So yeah, I fully agree with that. There's a lot I want to get into. We have a wonderful audience, by the way, tuned in. Appreciate you all. Don't be shy out there. If you're tuned in, say hello. Tell us where you're coming to us from. So drop into the chat. And if you have a question for Cameron, I'll do my best to read that question off and pose it to him. So don't be shy out there. Let Cameron know you're watching here. I've got
wow, Javier Valdez. This is a friend of mine from college. Haven't seen in, gosh, at least 10 years.
He's like, Cameron, I didn't know you were famous. Let's go.
Love to see it. Thanks, Javi.
That's pretty cool. See, I know people want to hate on social media, but that was just a positive win in the positive side of things. Checkbox social media just made that happen. Helping Cameron reconnect with a college buddy. I want to jump to a software question or a set of software conversations. And I know you've done a lot of different roles and responsibilities at One Firefly, Cam, but there was a small window, but where you were exclusively focused on software and systems integration here. And now you still have that, but now you've got a team that's going to be growing and supporting you in that role and capacity. But we made a decision years ago. I say years, you can maybe put a fine point on, maybe it was last year, to fully move into a software environment called Zoho One. And we had been, I remember this with detail. We moved into Zoho CRM in 2014. Okay. So we've used pieces of Zoho for a long time, going on almost 10 years, but there's this new, vertical stack, vertical integration that a Zoho One offers us. And this is not a Zoho commercial. We have no skin in the game for Zoho for this conversation, but we found value in that. And I was wondering if you could just share kind of what your analysis led to and then how it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. As internal product manager, I did oversee quite a few system migration projects. So the first one was moving us into Google Workspace for email, files, calendaring, all that. And then we also migrated away from Workfront as our project management tool into Zoho Projects. And that was really the catalyst for us moving into the Zoho One subscription model. So Zoho is a software, I don't want to say conglomerate, but a software company for business. They have probably 50 different applications available. And when you're a Zoho One customer, you have access to over 40 of those at an enterprise level for one cost per user per month or paid annually, however you choose to do it. So for us, we have gained tremendous value from that. We were in the CRM and we still use that quite a bit. All of our sales, account management work is happening there. But since then, we've gone into campaigns for email marketing. They have a business intelligence tool called Zoho Analytics, which is kind of like a Tableau where you can visualize your data and run analysis and create dashboards. And some members of our team have done some amazing things in there. Shout out JT. We have Zoho Projects, which is directly integrated into the CRM. So now everyone who's viewing an account can view all the projects happening for that account. They can go into the project and see what milestone we're working on, what's delayed, what's on time, who's working on what and when, really having that visibility. We've used Zoho Forms to collect information from both our customers and internally. We're using Zoho Recruit on the people operations side. We just rolled out Zoho People internally. So that's kind of our HR management tool where we're able to submit time off, view calendars for each other. I'm able to see the calendar of my entire team when they're in or out. So there's really been a lot of growth happening in our implementation of Zoho, and it's been great. I've really enjoyed working on that, and and now that we're invested in this ecosystem, a lot of my IT time is now spent in developing automations and integrations between Zoho applications and outside of Zoho. So when a certain action is occurring on an account or in a project, sending a notification to Slack so that the appropriate team members are made aware that something has occurred. When we're closing a deal, creating tasks in a project for the PM team to review that. And now we're even going down the path of when a task is completed, sending a notification to the client so that they know what's happened on their project automatically. Our team no longer would have to send that email manually, and they can then take that 5 or 10 minutes back and go on to the next task and be supporting more clients.
We primarily serve custom integration firms and residential and commercial and security firms and some HVAC firms and, a plethora of other types, not to leave anyone out. Do you think there's a role for a Zoho One in their businesses, or what is the threshold? If you're speaking now, imagine business owners or leaders are listening and they're leaning into what you're saying about this software and adding efficiencies to the business. How do you think about framing? When does it make sense to look at something like that?
I think when you have a tax ID record for your business, like when your business is recorded with your taxable entity, wherever that is, you should have a CRM. You should be able to track every lead that you're capturing on your website. You should have contact records for everyone that you talk to as a potential customer. You should be monitoring your deal flow for every single deal in a CRM at the least. I mean, even if you're a single person operation, the insight and the automation that you can configure in any CRM, we'll speak about Zoho here, but most CRMs have this capability. It just depends on what other tools you're using and how they directly integrate with each other to help you decide what's the right one for you. And also, what is your internal ability to create custom functions and develop that tool to be what it needs. But really just out of the box, anyone operating a business should be using a CRM, I believe.
And what about the step to a Zoho One, the full stack integration?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one to answer. I think it's in the range of $40 per month per user. And there's plenty of Zoho customers who are not using Zoho One because they've now changed this, but when it first came out, it required you to have everybody in your organization with a Zoho One license. Now, of course, you can provision which apps each user has. Like in our workspace, we probably have 20 of the 40 apps running, but on average, a user has access to 6 of those. So they vary depending on the role. Really, it just comes down to a discussion with your financial team and to decide what is that threshold for you and your business, whether you want to go for a higher per user tier package like CRM Plus, which has a lot of what you need from a sales and marketing side. It's going to cost you more as a bundle, but you do not have to have every single person on your payroll with a license to do that. So it really depends on your operation and your finances, what bundle you'd want to go with in the Zoho world.
What led to our decision? I mean, because One Firefly had been running a CRM since 2014 and maybe CRM Plus.
Yeah.
And
CRM Plus.
I think I know we started to use like forms or some of the other tools. What
Mhm.
led to you and Taylor and others deciding Zoho One is now the right move?
Yeah, that was all about projects. So we were coming up on a contract term with Adobe Workfront, which was a huge amount of money every year. And we identified Zoho projects as having most of the capabilities that we needed. We certainly lost a little bit, but not much. Like we found workarounds for what we lost
Mhm.
in that platform. But the cost savings of going to Zoho One at 40 some odd dollars per user compared to the licensing fees for Adobe and the lack of integration that existed between those two. Adobe wanted to charge us at least like $12,000 to integrate CRM with Workfront using their Fusion platform. And then we had Zoho One available, which offered direct integrations from CRM to Zoho projects at a lower per user per month cost with a whole other suite of applications available. So it really just came down to the dollars and cents and also the capabilities there. I believe that we gain more by having these applications integrated, even if the feature set is mildly limited from what we had in Workfront. We gain more by having those two applications talking to each other and having them exist for the users under one login, directly integrating opportunities and companies to our projects so that we can see what's happening after the deal is closed.
Should our customers be using Slack in their businesses? Different piece of software for those not familiar. Maybe Cameron, start with what is Slack? And do you have an opinion that our customers should be using it? Or maybe it's something similar?
Yeah, so Slack is an instant messaging platform. You can create workspaces. So there's workspaces for clubs, there's workspaces for buying groups in our industries. But we have a One Firefly workspace, and within that, we have channels. Those are like different message boards for each of our teams. We have channels for each of our clients, product development work we're doing, management announcements. We have a litany of fun channels that really embody our corporate culture and the personalities within it. And yeah, I do believe that every company that has a team of people, especially if you're distributed the way that One Firefly operates, an instant messaging platform is a requirement. I wouldn't necessarily say Slack because again, it's all about like if you're an Office 365 shop. I saw someone mention in the comments Teams has AI, so that's Teams is Slack for Microsoft users. You're not paying anything extra to use that, and it's a very similar workplace. Zoho One even has a Slack competitor called Click. Our team is very deeply embedded in Slack, so that's not a path we're walking down right now. But there's others out there, so I would definitely recommend an application like that that really enables the quick asynchronous communication on your team.
In your mind, how does Slack, which is our messaging environment, how does it contribute to One Firefly's culture? And how might it be possible for it to contribute to those that are tuned in and listening to their culture?
Yeah, I mean, Slack is our hub. It's really where everyone starts their day. It's where people are checking in throughout the day. On the topic of our culture, it's where we share wins from members of our team. We share wins from our customers so that people can feel proud of the work they're doing. Our North Stars for people to feel proud, prosperous, and connected. So there's two of them right there. Like we're connected on Slack and we feel proud because we get to see what's happening in the organization or what's happening in people's lives. We have people that are out doing amazing things. I think of Pau and her rodeo work. She shared some photos and video yesterday of a recent competition. I certainly feel proud for her. And also connected to what she's doing outside of work. And there's a lot of different instances of things like that happening at One Firefly on Slack. And I see it as certainly a huge part of us staying connected as an organization.
So Eddie did make the comment here. I'll put it on the screen. Eddie says Teams has some AI, and you just referenced that as well. In your mind, Cam, just so that we touch on AI,
Yeah.
how do you think about, or maybe even how are you addressing? So it's like maybe your opinions, and then what are you doing about it to experiment with AI potentially helping resolve redundant tasks for you or your team, things that, are burning time, but if you had an AI helping you, it's making you better. Is there anything that's top of mind for you?
Yeah. So I use AI to collaborate with personally. Like when I have a new idea, a new project I'm working on, kind of like a research assistant.
Yeah.
But I have recently started using AI as well in our, I'm not sure how this happened exactly, but in our Gmail, there's like a Trimbox AI email writer. So it'll read the email thread and it can give some AI suggestion on how you could reply. And, I'm just kind of playing around with it now, but I see a lot of areas like that where AI is reading the context of, say, an email thread with a client, and that could help you summarize their sentiment so that you can respond more quickly, or help you draft the message in a way that is going to respond in kind to that client. And then, there's no doubt that AI is going to have an impact on project management, and certainly in the IT world, AI is being used to identify potential phishing or malware on like our IT security side. So that's already in place. Yeah, I definitely see these technologies taking bigger and bigger steps in our operation, for sure.
Do you think businesses are better, potentially better because of AI, or are they worse because of AI?
I think it still comes down to the user of the AI to answer that question. I view it as a collaboration tool. It's not a panacea. So again, like you have to know how to prompt it to give you the information you need. And you also need to be judicious about the information it's providing you, because we know these large language models can speak very grandiose ways about things that they do not know, that they can purport truth where it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to be aware of that. But like any tool that has become available, whether it's technology in like the internet level technology, the technology that our clients are dealing with, or technology like, a jackhammer. Like people who used to do sidewalks or create roads didn't have jackhammers. And then the companies that started using the jackhammer started winning the contracts to lay new roads because they could get it done more quickly with greater efficiency and fewer people. So AI is going to be the same type of revelation in a variety of industries where you need to be ready to adopt that and to move yourself forward.
An example, Cameron, I'm in a marketing mastermind, and a friend of mine, Rich Brooks, that also runs a wonderful podcast. He's in that podcast, and he made a comment that back in the day, going back a couple of decades, he was a web developer, and there was a point where he had won a contract, and I mean, it's like two or $3,000, and he ended up using this thing called Dreamweaver
Mhm.
to create the website. And the customer learned about this and then came back to him and said, I want a discount on the website you just did for me. And Rich is like, why do you want a discount? He's like, well, because you used this tool and you didn't actually hand code it. I thought you were hand coding it. And Rich's reply is, well, did you hire me to hand code it, or did you hire me for a website? And I think you could think about examples in construction. Are you going to pay the person that uses a screwdriver more than the person that's going to use a power drill? If the person that's going to use a power drill is going to get the job done faster and better.
Mhm.
And I think we're in this new evolution today of all of us in society thinking about this. And I know you and I, Cameron, and our team have the philosophy It's really a matter of taking these tools to make us better. How do we
Yeah,
make the product better? How do we improve the customer experience?
that's right.
And how do we improve? We're a marketing agent. How do we improve results? How do we improve the results the clients receive? And if we can, man, I'll use every tool in the toolbox to help me deliver a better product for the customer.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the
I
way
know,
I approach that, Ron, is,
please.
you know, our team is doing a lot of tasks. Like they're doing data. This isn't necessarily AI, but let's talk about like automation and integration for a second. It's like you're doing all these tasks to pull data, to prepare to meet with a client and present to them. That's cognitive load, right? Like you're burning mental energy to prepare for that. What if that data just fed to you? Now you could apply that mental energy to analyzing the data, providing recommendations of what to do next, optimizing their campaign. These are the kinds of steps that become available when you're utilizing AI or automation integration to really enable you to think about things in a way that you weren't previously capable of. And you're not paying for the tools, you're paying for the expertise. So how can we apply that expertise in the best possible way to service the customer?
No, I agree. Kim, I have to admit something to you. I may have stalked your social media in advance of this, knowing I was going to bring you on. So this is where I embarrass you. So hopefully some of our team is still on here. Or
Okay.
maybe not embarrass you, but make you proud as well.
Okay.
But here, I'm gonna put this on the screen. All right, tell me what's going on in this picture,
Yeah. So this is,
and let's describe it in detail for our listeners.
yeah. So this is me laying, feet up on a chaise lounge in a dirty field outside of Lake McMurtry near Stillwater, Oklahoma. This picture was taken in early March. I participated in a bike event, a 101-mile gravel bike race called the Mid-South. One of the coolest events I've ever been a part of. And this picture was probably 18 to 20 miles from the finish line. Salsa Bikes, which is a bike manufacturer, had this chaise lounge with leopard print set up with a professional photo booth. And this is the pose that I chose.
I love it. So you're clearly into biking. Tell me about your passion for biking.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. I'd love to talk about this. It's one of my favorite things. So in, I think it was 2006, I participated in my first Bike MS charity bike ride, and someone close to me in my life was diagnosed with MS, and they invited me to participate in that event with them. At the time, I was very out of shape, hadn't really ridden a bike more than maybe 8 miles as a kid. So I started training. I really just found a passion for cycling. I really love the feeling of flying without wings. That's what I like to describe the bike as. And so I raced through college. That was my sophomore year of college is when I started on that journey. I started racing for the school and our club team at Texas State. I became president of the club for 2 years, hosted races, traveled with the team around the state and competed representing our university. And then I just kept it up. So left college, went off to New York and was biking there. There's some pretty funny stories about me when I first moved there, getting lost for 8 hours and not having cell phone reception, and my wife calling every bike shop under the sun, wondering where I was. But yeah, so I've had some adventures in my day, and
You found
lately
your way home, clearly.
I did, thankfully.
Did Lassie come and find you?
No, a very friendly bodega owner gave me some directions.
Okay.
This was literally like a week after moving to New York City. I decided to go find this club, and then I got terribly lost. Ended up doing like 120 miles that day trying to find my way home to an apartment I just moved into. So that was a journey. But lately, over the last year or so, I've really gotten into like ultra distance events. So a lot on the gravel. And for those who don't know, gravel cycling is like road cycling, but on dirt roads. Sometimes you do go on pavement, but primarily you're on unimproved roads. Like this picture that we're seeing now is also from the Mid-South. There was even a part there where we went on some single track trails connecting from the lake back to Stillwater, which was really cool. So yeah, I like it when the ride gets hard. I like to go for, races that are going to take me over 6 hours. I really thrive at that.
What's your secret? How do you, when you're 6 hours in and you still have hours to go and your body's telling you to quit and it's super hot or super cold and it's raining, what do you tell yourself to keep going?
There is no quit in my mind. It's the finish line is where it ends. Obviously, if there's like a mechanical issue and I'm unable to finish, then I'll get a ride. But I go into these events envisioning a future version of myself that already completed it. So heading into the Mid-South, I envisioned finishing that event. I envisioned the feeling of being done with it. So then every moment of training, every moment at the race is where you're just manifesting that future version of yourself. And by not doing that, then I'm kind of letting myself down. So I like to just go for it and, take it as it comes, try to design a race plan and stick to that plan as much as you can and take whatever happens next.
Love it. Cameron, it's been a lot of fun having you on show 243. For those that are tuned in and they want to get in touch with you or follow you, how would you have them do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the best place. Not terribly active on social media, a lot of private accounts, but you can certainly find me on LinkedIn just by searching my name, and I'm the one that's at One Firefly. So yeah, and look forward to connecting with any listener that has questions. Happy to provide any help I can.
Awesome. Cameron, thanks for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Ron. It was a blast.
All right, folks, there you have it. Cameron Howitt, he's manager of project management and IT at One Firefly. And he's a great testament of the people that make up the team here at One Firefly. There's a lot of passionate, hardworking, super smart folks that are very much focused on being there for each other and absolutely being there for our customers so that we can really deliver an exceptional experience and deliver marketing that helps you grow. It's in our mission to help technology companies grow. And it's certainly our North Star or our purpose to help people feel proud, prosperous, and connected. And we can achieve those things when we're doing great marketing for all of you. So a little bit of a different show today, but I wanted to have Cameron on, and I'm glad you all were able to tune in. And I'm going to sign off by sending you all here. I'll put up the artwork. If you have not done so, please subscribe to the podcast, the audio version. You can subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcast or whatever your preferred method is. And if you'd be willing to leave us a review, also be warmly welcomed. And until then, looks like I forgot to load my final show art. So I'll leave you on that. I'll leave this show art up here at the end, and I will see you all soon. So Cameron, I see you down there. Don't leave. You and I will check in here as soon as I sign off. But for all of you that are tuned in, I am signing off, and I'll see you all later.